slides taken of the exhibition held by the SPGB from the 15th to the 22nd of June in 1974 in relation to the 70th anniversary of the party. We have on some previous occasions had special issues of the Socialist Standard at its the 50th anniversary and the 60th, but the idea of an exhibition of this kind has not come forward before. And in fact, when it was first suggested to the EC, I have to admit that it was received rather guardedly. It seemed to some members of the EC that there was not really much point in making an occasion of the passing of 70 years since the party was formed, and that it might in fact be received with little enthusiasm either by party members or by outsiders. But as soon as the work began on getting the material together, it was realized that there was a vast amount of enthusiasm behind it, and that it was going to carry forward to a very successful effort. You will notice at the beginning the first slides are taken from the street in which the party head office is, taken out on the pavement, showing the front of the shop and the poster put out on the pavement itself. After this, you will be shown pictures of the inside of our head office, arranged on the basis of 10 separate stands for different aspects that we wanted to recall. Here again you've got a picture of the shop front, which is a colourful, brightly decorated and attracted quite an amount of attention from passers-by. Here you see a picture of Eva Goodman smiling her greetings at early visitors to the exhibition. Here's another general view of the exhibition just at the beginning when things were getting underway. I might say that the amount of enthusiasm aroused by this was quite extraordinary. Members and branches cooperated both to get the exhibition arranged, preparing the stands and displaying all the material of a standard absolutely professional. And in addition, members and branches dug into the material that they had and came forward with stuff suitable to be put on show. The committee in fact found that they received much more material than they had room for, and this included some very valuable exhibits from companion parties, some of which you will see later on in these slides. This is the first of the 10 stands related to the Socialist Party of Great Britain, giving material about early issues of the Socialist Standard, leaflets, pamphlets, books and so on, collections of cuttings, and you will see some photographs of old members, Moses Barrett, Charlie Lester, Adolph Conn, Jack Fitzgerald and F.C. Watts among them. There's a leaflet there which was issued to call the founding meeting of the SPGB on the 12th of June 1904. There were also, as a miscellaneous item, some letters written by James Connolly when he was in the SDF, addressed to party members and discussing some aspects of the socialist case. Here again you can see the material laid out here, pamphlet, special issue of the Socialist Standard. You can see there Russia, war pamphlet, and various other things related to the 70 years that the party has managed to survive. Here we are on the second of the two stands. Incidentally, so far we are on the ground floor in our main room at our head office, the room in which we hold propaganda meetings and in which the EC normally holds its meetings. And for the purpose of preparing and running this exhibition, the EC were compelled to get out and crowd themselves into one of the upstairs rooms. Later on, you'll see one or two of the stands are in an upstairs room. Here again on this stand related to capitalism, you'll see articles from the Socialist Standard, photos illustrating some of the grimmer aspects of capitalism, slums, and derelict-looking streets in which the workers have had to live, and to use the modern approach, indications of the pollution of the environment that necessarily accompanies the running of the capitalist system. Here we are on the third of the stands, one related to trade unions. Again, articles, material about trade union membership, their growth of membership, very old trade union membership cards, material about strikes, and hanging up about eye level, you will see some of the issues of the British Worker, which was an emergency journal issued by the Trade Union Congress during the general strike in 1926. There are also books on the history of the trade union movement and other material of that kind, and pictures of some demonstrators. Here's a closer look at some of the stuff that's already been mentioned. We're now on Russia, and some particularly interesting stuff here. Articles, of course, and pamphlets, copies of journals and various kinds, including a pamphlet that created a great deal of interest over here during the Second World War, and that is the pamphlet published by an Anglo-Russian organisation called Soviet Millionaires. It served a very useful purpose in party propaganda. It was got out by the communists because at that time it happened to be their interest to try to show that Russia was just like the rest of the capitalist world, and so they featured the growing concentrations of wealth in Russia. Also on show there are some of the original Bolshevik journals published in Switzerland in 1905 in the Russian language, and it's probable that they are some of the very few copies of that original journal existing anywhere. There were also a front page article in the Socialist Standard, a Russian challenge, was when the Russians were carrying on propaganda for peace conferences during the First World War and approached the SPGB to get a statement of their case because they couldn't get it anywhere else. Also, there are original letters in July 1917 addressed to the Socialist Standard from the Russian delegation, a Russian delegation over here, representing the Conference of Soldiers and Workers, again about organising a struggle to bring the war to an end. Next stand, this is number 5 in the list, is related to electoral activity. You will see numerous copies of journals from the SPGB and some of the companion parties about electoral campaigns, posters, pro-election addresses, and included among them is the front page of the Socialist Standard in the general election that took place in Britain at the end of the First World War, labelled Blood Red General Election, and with the election material set out in the form of a ballot paper and the word socialism scrawled right across the various capitalist parties, including of course the Labour Party and the Liberal Labour advocates and so on. Also, you will see there a photo of our late comrade Clifford Groves, who was one of our candidates at one of the by-elections. You will see also a broadsheet, the Socialist Party election special, the kind that were very, very useful in election propaganda in some of the elections after the Second World War. Now we're on stand number 6, which the theme of which was war. Articles from the Socialist Standard and journals of the companion parties, a copy of the a displayed copy of the front page of the SS at the beginning of the First World War, laying down the socialist position of complete opposition to capitalist war, the attitude which of course the SPGB has maintained throughout the whole of its history, including the Second World War and the various secondary wars that have taken place in between. You will see pamphlets, War on the Working Class, and the later one, the Socialist Party and War, leaflets on conscription, various photos, a reproduction of what was at one time a very widely distributed election recruiting poster. Here you see the view enlivened by a back view of Comrade Cox and somebody else examining the exhibits. I noticed in another of the leaflets that was very widely circulated by the SPGB in the early days of the First World War was one on patriotism. The seventh of the 10 stands is devoted to Marxism, with on display there the first English edition of Capital, published by Kerr in 1867, and you will see photos, of course, of Marx and Engels, and special editions of the Socialist Standard relating to various aspects of the Marxist case. As, for example, the one on the anniversary of the publication of Marx Capital, and others dealing with the application of Marxist theory to the modern world. Now we come to the section devoted to companion parties. This is not on the ground floor, this was on the room up a short flight of stairs at our head office. You will see posters advertising meetings in various countries. I noticed one of them was McClatchy speaking at a meeting of the Socialist Party of Canada when he was on a visit over there. An SPFC leaflet on the meaning of the Socialist Revolution, another advertisement of a meeting, journals of the Austrian Party, our Austrian comrades, and material from New Zealand and Australia, and I noticed the journal of the comrades in Jamaica. Some early copies you will see there, very early copies of the Western Clarion, and later copies of the Journal of the Canadian and American parties. Also a journal from Sweden. There was a small group of members in Sweden who were trying to get our case over, and they sent along a copy of their journal. Here we're on stand 9, the Socialist Standard section, with bound volumes on show and loose copies covering the whole of the years since 1904, when the first issue of the Socialist Standard came out. You will notice from the board up there that the first issue of the Socialist Standard in September 1904, 3,000 copies were printed, and they cost £7.50, a very different situation from the kind of expense that the Socialist Standard is today. One of the interesting exhibits here was the manuscript of articles for the Socialist Standard, showing them after they had been corrected for printers' errors and so on before final publication. The last of the stands was related to socialism, a general review, including some of the early pioneers. You'll see a photo of William Morris up there, and one of the journals with which he was associated. Special edition of the Socialist Standard dealing with Robert Owen and his work in the early days of utopian socialism. Various pamphlets published by the Social Democratic Federation in Britain in the years before the SPGB was formed. And copies of various pamphlets published by the SPGB at different times since. We're now coming to the end of these shows with some miscellaneous pictures. Here was a section with our books and pamphlets on sale, with Comrade Cyril May acting as custodian for the material on display. And the picture of our canteen, not a particularly bright one, with Comrade McClatchy sitting in the corner there. I said at the beginning that when the idea first came up, some of us were a bit dubious as to whether it could be made a success. It turned out to be a very great success indeed. The attempt to get the press along was not so successful. A number of newspapers were invited to send someone along and promised to do so. As it turned out, only the Guardian sent somebody along who spent quite a considerable time here being interviewed and was very much impressed by what he saw, and it resulted in a very favourable and useful report in the Guardian as a result of his visit. Something over 400 visitors turned up during the week, including 100 on the last day, and it wasn't only a question of their coming to look at what was on show, but branches backed up the effort splendidly and had people in cooperating all the time to keep the thing going and to talk with various visitors and discuss all the difficulties that they raised and the questions they asked, and of course looking after the sale of literature. The receipts from the sale of pamphlets and so on, and donations, totalled about £133, which more than covered the total cost of the exhibition, which was £112. It can be said that the exhibition stirred up a very great deal of interest in branches and members, and helped to convince members and outsiders that the SPGB is a very much alive and effective organisation. It also brought to light the fact that we have a great deal of information stored away at head office and in the hands of individual members, and perhaps if some occasion arises later on to have another exhibition, we can put on some of the material that was left out on the present occasion. Altogether, everybody who had anything to do with this deserves the fullest congratulation on a very successful effort, and we hope that it will be of interest to our fellow socialists in companion parties in various other parts of the world.